Okay, so today I'm going to do a little test. I've got my Umarex AirJavelin here, just set up for standard CO2. I have actually, let me see if I can do this one-handed. Not a 90 gram cylinder, but an adapter with just a 12 gram. I'll get, maybe 2 or 3 full power shots out of that. But I've got a lot of CO2 canisters to swap out. So what I want to try to find out today is the difference between these various types of points here. So this is kind of the standard field tip that comes equipped on these arrows. Just a lightweight, kind of dull tip. This one here is it's also just a practice tip, but it's got a little bit of a higher grain weight. And finally, I've got broadheads here. So these are just actually some relatively inexpensive Amazon broadheads. So they're 100 grams, and they came in a 12 pack. So, I mean, I know you're not supposed to fire these things into a target. They're gonna get ruined, but I have a 12 pack, so I'm kind of okay with beating up a couple of them just for the sake of finding out how they actually penetrate. I mean, I only have 6 of these arrows anyway. I don't need 12 of the broadheads, so probably gonna mangle some today, and that's fine. And then what we're gonna do, I've just got some of these sort of these foam interlocking squares, that you might put on like an exercise room floor or something. Just a stack of them here. Let's see, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 of them. And I'm gonna be firing into that at a distance of, I don't know, not too far, but I'll make sure that the distance is the same for all 3 shots, and we'll see what happens. Okay, that was our first shot, and that was just the standard field tip that comes equipped on these arrows when they're new. So maybe we can use a reference here. Here's that little mark, and this is the distance relative to it. So let's see, I'll pull it here. I mean, looks like we went through about 6 of these pieces of foam. That's pretty good, actually, more than I thought it would. Yeah, that's what we got for penetration. I'd say that's about 4.5 inches end to end there. All right, let's move on to the heavier tip. Okay, that was the heavier tip, and very similar, I'd say, from that reference point to here. I'd have to go back and look at the video to remember. Let's see, what did we get through? Oh, it's pulling on that seventh square. Not quite through it, but it poked it. So I'd say slightly more penetration. But that's within the margin for error. I might not have had these bunched up tightly on that first shot, so I'm gonna say virtually no difference between the standard tip and the heavier grain field tip. All right, now let's try the one I think you guys are all waiting to see. Okay, for this final shot, we're gonna be using the broadhead. Now I did go ahead and change out the CO2 canister. I used 2 shots on the the first one that was fresh with the 2 field tips. I figured you can do okay with 2 shots out of those without seeing any significant drop off. But for this shot, I want to make sure I'm not putting this thing at an unfair disadvantage. So this is going to be a freshly installed CO2, same amount of pads. Let's go ahead and take the shot and see what we got here. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like it went in any deeper, but I don't know necessarily that, you know, a broadhead is designed to be, well, you know what? We're moving all 8 squares here. Let's see if I'll be able to save that broadhead. It's sticking in there pretty good. I mean, the idea behind a broadhead is to create a more violent wound channel, which definitely seems like it did. I might be able to save this. Maybe if I unscrew it. Yeah, okay. All right, well, there it is. Very effective. Definitely sunk in deep. Got all 8 of my squares. So I guess technically you'd have to say that that is a deeper penetration. Yeah, that's scary. You wouldn't want to get shot with that. Yikes. Okay, all right, there it is, guys. Just a simple experiment. Hope you enjoyed it. In case anybody out there might have been curious about same thing that I was wondering here. So there you go. Okay, so you know what? I actually thought of one more thing. I figured maybe some of you guys might be curious to see how these broadheads actually fly. Does it affect the arrow travel? How bad is the drop? Will it tumble? So I figured let's go ahead and take another shot with the broadhead, and I'll move back a little further, give it a little bit of distance. You know, if it was going to fail, you know, give it the opportunity. So let's go ahead and do that. You won't be able to see. I don't have a great tripod setup here, so I'm just gonna shoot it at the target again. But I am going to step back significantly further and make the shot, aiming for the same point. And then, you know, if it hits the target, you know, we'll know that it does. The broadhead does travel good. So let's have a look at that. Okay. Wow. You know, I gotta say, well, that's sort of an anomaly, because I took that shot from way further away. How do I explain this? So I use a standard laser sight, and you know, it's dialed in perfectly for windage, and then I just with feel, I account for drop, so I always aim a little high, thinking, you know, you're gonna lose some elevation over the course of distance. Now this was a further shot. I don't know why this shot was so hot. I did put in a fresh CO2 for this shot, and I did also use a fresh broadhead. I put a new one on just in case I had fouled that previous one. I didn't want any slight bends in the blades to affect this test. But man, I I aimed high on this target thinking it would drop, but man, it really looks like it just traveled maybe an inch drop overall from a, gosh, maybe a 25-30 yard distance, and it absolutely skewered my pads. Look at that. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, that was very effective. Straight, absolutely straight. Didn't even drop. Maybe because you've got, I mean, if you think of things in terms of aerodynamics, you've got these kind of vertically and horizontally planed blades that maybe they act as a sort of a front fletching for the front of the arrow, and it allows it to travel straighter because it's cutting through the air with a little bit of lift at the front. I mean, that's the only kind of logic I can apply here. So, I mean, wow. I guess the takeaway here is absolutely put broadheads on your Umarex AirJavelin arrows, because that seems to work great. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a positive result, I would say. So if you guys liked the video, hit the like button. I think that helps with getting it shared. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again.